The commander of Crew 6 is Captain Stephen G. Bowen. He hails from Cohasset, Massachusetts. Married with 3 children, holds the title of first U.S. Navy submarine officer to be selected as a mission specialist by NASA. Captain Bowen is also a veteran of NASA space flights, including the space shuttle flights on STS-126, 132, and 133, the only astronaut to ever go consecutive back-to-back shuttles. Sitting next to Stephen is pilot Warren Woody Hoburg, the 37-year-old from Pittsburgh. He studied aeronautics and astronautics from MIT before getting a doctorate in electrical engineering and a computer science degree from the University of California, Berkeley. During grad school, Hoburg worked as an EMT with the Yosemite Search and Rescue. Crew 6 will be Hoburg's...
Stage 2, RP1 load complete.
And there's that load complete. Stage 2 is in the books. We'll load it up. And now you can see the venting off of that liquid oxygen. Talking about Hoburg, this flight will be his first flight since NASA selected him to be an astronaut along with Rajachari's class in 2017, the Turtles. In the role of mission specialist is astronaut Sultan Alneyadi. He was chosen by the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center of the United Arab Emirates to be a part of expeditions 68-69. Father of 5, spent most of his life in Al Ain and Abu Dhabi, but in 2020 traded that in for astronaut training in Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center. This will be his first trip to space. And it's also the first trip for second mission specialist Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fedyaev. He will be working to monitor the spacecraft during the dynamic launch and re-entry phases of flight. He will be a flight engineer for Expedition 68, just turned 42 years of age. Each of these 4 crew members will be part of Expedition 68 once they arrive at the International Space Station. T-minus 18 minutes and counting. We had strong back chill that began. And coming up in just a few minutes, we'll start loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage.
And I think a great testament to the international partnerships of this program. Half the crew is, international. Sultan being the first UAE astronaut to launch on a U.S. vehicle from the U.S. to have trained at Johnson Space Center. An amazing, completion of the partnership that started several years ago, and taking that now all the way to completion. And just great to see, NASA and space exploration being just this great unifier for the world, especially as there's low Earth orbit, but then we look beyond that to Artemis and Mars, and just the collaboration and the work to do such hard things and really pulling together the best of all the nations.
And the partnership of those nations rises above all else, and it's impressive, the camaraderie of the crews in space with their international backgrounds.
So that venting, so we talked about there's 2 things happening in the
Dragon
case.
SpaceX, F9 is proceeding with prop load, and we're tracking no issues with Dragon or F9 going into launch.
SpaceX Dragon copies.
So update from the core that's on track. So we talked about the condensation a few times, and there's also the venting. So 2 different processes. The condensation is the super chilled fuel cooling the metal and the skin around it. The venting is because it's super cold, as it heats up on the inside just from the air temperature, essentially working its way in there, it vents. And so that's just like a pot boiling, and just like you would, lift the lid off a tea kettle to let the pressure out. This is the same thing you're seeing happen there. So that's what's happening kind of from the middle of the screen.
Yeah, and on a calm night like tonight, the winds have totally died down. You can see it as it cascades down like a waterfall coming off the middle of the strong back there. Want to make a quick note about the radio and how you can hear. If you're on local amateur radio on the VHF radio frequency, turn into 146.940 megahertz, and UHF radio frequency 444.925 megahertz on the FM mode. You can hear this all around the Space Coast.
Load has started.
And there goes our Stage 2 LOX load on a beautiful night on the coast of Central Florida. For Stage 1, that's going to continue to load, and we'll see that go all the way down to T-minus 6 minutes in terms of the RP1 load. In terms of locks, that will continue until about T-3 to 2 minutes on the liquid oxygen side. A lot more volume, of course, in the first stage. Hey, let's throw up a quick social media question. What do you say, Raj?
Sounds good. What do we got here?
At JSE Garin asks, I am 9 years old and want to know if you can see airplanes on the ISS. I have never heard that question.
So actually, Megan MacArthur had a cool post where she took a picture of the ground and you can see the contrails of a plane. So you can't see a plane if it's not what we call conning, meaning contrails. You can, if you can find the contrails, then you can follow it back to find the plane, but it's super hard to find an actual airplane that's not in the contrails. We also spent some time on Crew 3 trying to see who could one-up each other to find ships. So you can cheat and look around the Panama Canal to see if you could find ships there, but you need binoculars to help yourself. But if you know where to look or along the shipping lanes, you can usually find some ships. And then airplanes, if you look around like the places like over the Atlantic where you can look for contrails and find planes, but absolutely you can see them.
What a great answer. Didn't know that. Thank you, Raj. Let's head out to Kate Tice now.
Thanks, Daryl. Everything's still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon Endeavour just under 15 minutes from now. Now, for those just tuning in, Falcon 9 began propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes. Around T-minus 20 minutes, Falcon 9 completed loading of RP-1 fuel on the second stage. Fuel loading on the first stage remains underway, and it is approximately 80% full. It will finish around T-minus 6 minutes. Falcon 9 is also underway with loading of densified liquid oxygen, and that will wrap up at T-minus 3 minutes for the first stage and T-minus 2 minutes for the second stage. Coming up, we'll perform checkouts of the thrust vector controllers, a procedure called TVC wiggles. We'll command Falcon 9 to activate those thrust vector controllers and actually wiggle the engines a couple degrees. This verifies that those engines will be able to move while in flight, which is how Falcon 9 steers itself during the ascent phase. Dragon mission director and team reporting no issues. Communication checkouts are complete, the crew access arm is retracted, and the launch escape system is armed. And as you can see there on the right-hand side of your screen, the crew is strapped in and ready to go to space. Everybody looks pretty calm and chill, given that they are going to space in 13 minutes. Final instructions to the crew will come at T-minus 10 minutes. The crew displays will be configured for launch, which give the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health. At T-minus 5 minutes, we'll then be in terminal count, and Dragon will transition to internal power. We'll hear continued status callouts from SpaceX Mission Control as we get closer to liftoff. The ranges go. All secured air and sea space remain clear. And as you can see, weather remains gorgeous and everything still remains inbound for the launch criteria. So all in all, Falcon 9 and Dragon Endeavour, all systems remain go for launch in just 12 minutes and 34 seconds from now.
All right, thank you very much, Kate. And take a look at this picture. Before their flight, Crew 6 got a picture with what was supposed to be their booster. Actually got swapped out for a brand new booster, but anytime you get that close to the hardware, it's a cool thing. Brand new booster launching tonight. And at the time Falcon 9 and Dragon launches, the International Space Station, which is being tracked right here by Mission Control, will be 260 statute miles over the Bristol Channel, southwest of Cardiff, Wales. Crew 6, once they get off the ground, will spend the next 25 hours chasing down the International Space Station for a rendezvous at 1:11 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. It'll be Friday. And we'll have live coverage on NASA TV of docking and the Crew 6 welcome ceremony at 11 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Final thoughts, Raja?
Yep,
As we get ready to lift off.
Yeah, so right here, they're at 10 minutes. They'll probably say some thank yous to the ground. A lot of people got them here. You're going to see them messing with the displays. So Woody and Steve will be putting up what's called forward views on the outside displays, so the mission specialist can monitor the parameters. That's how they monitor anything that would how the performance is doing. In the center display, they'll bring up the event details that show the launch, and you'll see them put their hands down once they get closer to launch, and they'll have this display up so they can basically watch. They'll have everything configured, and that's what they talk about, configuring for launch, so that you don't have to touch it during the launch itself.
Colonel Chari putting us in the seat of the astronauts with exactly what they're doing. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And one more thing I want to say. I don't know, Raja. I have a feeling there's love in the air. Not going to give it away, but it just feels like there's love in the air. You got to stay tuned to find out more about that. For now, we'll turn it over to Gary and Kate at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Take us through the rest of the countdown.
Thanks, Daryl. That's right. We're exactly T-minus 10.5 minutes until liftoff of Crew 6. As you can see there on your screen, Falcon 9 is underway with propellant loading, as indicated by those white clouds forming around the vehicle. The fuel loading is complete on the second stage. LOX load remains underway. It's about 40% full on the second stage. LOX load also underway.
Dragon, SpaceX, confirm crew displays configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon crew displays are configured for launch.
Copy that, Steve. And once again, on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we're honored to have you aboard Dragon Capsule Endeavour on its next trip to the International Space Station. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
And thanks again to everyone out there who made the vehicle, the ISS, our mission, and our crew ready for launch. Really want to thank everyone and appreciate the great call, much appreciated call for the scrub the other night. It was a great call and a good learning opportunity for the crew and I think for the teams. And so once more to the breach, dear friends, Crew 6 is ready to launch.
Some nice words there between the crew, as you see there on your screen, and SpaceX core, located here at SpaceX Mission Control, which a live view there on your screen, as you can tell by perhaps the ambient noise around me, the energy is starting to grow in anticipation for launch coming up about 8.5 minutes from now.
That's right. The energy is high here, Kate. Now at that T-minus 10-minute mark, we heard the good luck and Godspeed from the teams here in Mission Control in Hawthorne, where that crowd is gathering. Meanwhile, we're tracking the loading of fuel and oxidizer on the first and second stage. Second stage filled with fuel right now, continuing to fill with oxidizer. It'll be the last of the tanks to fill. Stage 1 continuing to be underway. At the 10-minute mark, you heard that call for configuring the crew displays for launch. That was confirmed. At the T-minus 10-minute mark, it also is a point where Falcon 9 launch commit criteria gets checked by the computers past that milestone. Now we're counting down to the next milestone at T-minus 7 minutes, which is setting up for engine chill.
That's right. We should hear that call out in about 44 seconds. At T-minus 7 minutes, we will actually open up the pre-valves to the M1D engines, those 9 engines at the base of the first stage. That will allow a little bit of that super chilled, densified liquid oxygen to flow into the hardware, those turbo pumps, and that basically helps prepare the hardware from a thermal standpoint or a temperature standpoint for that full flow of super chilled liquid oxygen. So we basically open up the pre-valves and a little bit of that LOX flows in and helps cool the hardware down in preparation for full flow of liquid oxygen.
Engine chill has started.
And as expected, there's that call out for that engine chill, indicating the pre-valves are open and the engines are beginning to prepare for liftoff.
Now under 6 minutes, 45 seconds from launch, again, we're continuing to fuel the Falcon 9 rocket, stage 2 filled with the RP-1 kerosene. At the T-minus 6 minute mark, we should hear a call out that the stage 1 RP load is complete. They're just topping that off. Liquid oxygen on both the first and second stages come next.
RP1 load complete.
And there's that confirmation. We're counting down to T-minus 5 minutes at this point. At T-minus 5, the Dragon is configured for terminal count. And at terminal count, Dragon is switched to internal power, right now receiving power from umbilical lines from the ground. Also at just under 5 minutes, we'll be waiting for strong back retract. The arm that's currently propping the Falcon 9 and Dragon up, we'll see the clamp arm start to open, and the strong back itself will tilt about 2 degrees off from where it is now at a 90-degree position. Just a little off, and then it'll get out of the way completely upon liftoff. Then, of course, comes the, after the strong back retracts, comes the completion of liquid oxygen loading on both the first and second stage. For now, T-minus 5 minutes, 15 seconds. We're going to stand by for that call of configuring for terminal count. Crew 6 in their seated positions and ready for launch.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count. Tanks are pressurizing for strong bay retract.
All right, and we heard both of those calls. Dragon onboard computers are going to take control of the vehicle. You should be seeing the clamp arm at the very top of the second stage, right underneath where you see the unpressurized trunk of Dragon, which is indicated by the half black and half white indicators, the black being the solar panels that provide power to the Dragon
is retracted
on its transit to the International Space Station. Got that confirmation of strong back retract. We should be able to visually see that strong back.
The strong back will retract about 2 degrees away from the vehicle. Then at liftoff, the strong back will actually go back to 45 degrees. That strong back is part of the transporter erector, which provides the liquids and gases and electrical connections to the vehicle. As Gary pointed out, those clamp arms opened up underneath the trunk, just above the first stage. And you can see that action happening now as that initial retraction just a couple degrees away from the vehicle. At this point in time, fueling remains underway, propellant load remains underway. All fuels are loaded. That RP1 liquid oxygen load should...
Stage 1, lock flow complete.
There, we just heard that call out that is all done. Second stage LOX load still underway. That will wrap up at about T-minus 2 minutes. Now that that first stage liquid oxygen load is complete, we'll see some more of that white gaseous cloud forming around the vehicle due to those lines being
Dragon
closed
is in
off.
terminal count and on internal power.
All right, good call out there indicating that Dragon is running on its own power. We are in the terminal count now at T-minus 2 minutes and 29 seconds. The crew remains comfortable there on the right-hand side of your screen. About 15 seconds remaining in stage 2 LOX load.
Stage 2, lock flow complete.
Okay.
Dragon is in auto idle.
You heard those calls. The Falcon 9 fully fueled with RP1 rocket fuel as well as the liquid oxygen. That call of Dragon is an auto idle. There's going to be a series
Gas
of
close has
calls
started. Expect rising.
as the gas closeout, purging the lines of the fuel that have supplied the Falcon 9 with RP1 and liquid oxygen. We'll also wait for a call of the arming of the flight termination system. The Dragon flight computers are configured for launch. Flight termination system will allow Falcon 9 to talk to Dragon on the ride uphill. Terminate the flight, issuing an abort.
Startup. Dragon is in countdown.
T-minus 1 minute and counting. Dragon is in countdown. Everything's looking good for launch.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX Dragon copy. Go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All teams pulled go.
$15 seconds.
Ready for an on-time launch for the instantaneous
T-minus 10,
run.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power and liftoff of Crew 6. Go Dragon, go Falcon.
Crew 6 now launching on Endeavour's fourth flight to the International Space Station. Vehicle pitching downrange, 1.7 million pounds of thrust provided by the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Hearing good calls, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We're now at T plus 34 seconds into the 6th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Stage 1 throttle down.
So there we heard the call out indicating that the first stage engines will begin to throttle down in preparation for max Q, which is the moment of maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle will experience during flight.
Vehicle is supersonic.
That call out there indicating the vehicle's traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q.
Stage 1 throttle up.
All right, now that we're past max Q,
1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
That 1 Bravo indicator are different abort modes that are called that allow the ground teams and the crew to track about the position of the Falcon 9 and the Dragon as they make their way up the eastern seaboard. In the event of an abort, these different abort modes would indicate about the position where Dragon would land,
Started.
as well as indicate what series of maneuvers Dragon would indicate. But so far, we're hearing good calls on the performance of the Falcon 9 on its ride uphill. 1 minute, 53 seconds into flight.
we're about 30 seconds away from main engine cutoff, which will be followed quickly by stage separation and second engine start, which is the ignition of that MVAC engine on the second stage. Now about 10 seconds away from main engine cutoff.
Two Alpha.
Copy, 2
Stage
Alpha.
separation confirmed.
There you can see on your screen confirmation of stage separation as well as ignition of that second stage engine. Second stage is now carrying the Crew 6 astronauts to orbit. Beautiful view there on the left-hand side of your screen coming from the first stage, which, as you can see, is still gaining in altitude. It has not yet reached its apogee. A beautiful view of the Florida Space Coast there in the background.
Meanwhile, we're tracking good performance on that MVAC engine. On the screen to your right, we'll be hearing periodic performance calls about once every minute of the status of the trajectory of the second stage and the Crew 6 astronauts that are inside Crew Dragon Endeavour. We'll also be hearing call-outs,
Bermuda.
just like you heard just there, as we pass over the various ground stations along the ascent track.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
There's that performance call-out.
Dragon acknowledges nominal trajectory.
As for the first stage there on the left-hand side of your screen, that first stage still gaining in altitude, although that gain is slowing down. It will be making its way back down to Earth, attempting a landing on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, which is located off the Florida coast by a couple hundred miles.
The MVAC engine on stage 2 burns for 6 minutes after second stage ignition. We'll continue to see this engine burn until about 8.5 minutes into today's flight.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
SpaceX, Dragon, nominal trajectory.
Again, these performance calls happen once a minute. Flight teams continuing to track the Falcon 9 and its ascent. Everything's looking good so far. You'll also continue to hear those check-ins of the ground stations as we pass them.
At this point in time, we're roughly 2 minutes away from the next major event, which will be the entry burn for the first stage. We will relight 3 engines, 3 M1D engines on that first stage to help slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
We're approaching 200 kilometers in altitude. It's about 124 miles. Meanwhile, velocity.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Good trajectory calls. About to pass 12,000 kilometers per hour.
SpaceX, Dragon acknowledges nominal trajectory.
It's about 7,500 miles per hour.
Everything looking nominal for both first and second stages. Now coming up to T plus 6.5 minutes into flight.
Mostly what we're hearing now are the performance calls in the second stage. In about a minute is when we'll see a series of events in rapid succession. It's been a pretty good pace since second stage ignition. Less than a minute from now, we'll start to see
Dragon,
more action
SpaceX,
on the first stage.
Nominal trajectory.
SpaceX, Dragon, nominal trajectory.
As Gary mentioned, those callouts occurring about once every minute. Now we're about 20 seconds away from the first stage entry burn. That burn will last about 30 seconds and help slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there you can see
Stage 2, FTS has safed.
on your screen that first stage entry burn has begun. That booster sees high drag, which actually scrubs roughly 70% of the velocity by the time that the landing burn begins. So about another 10 seconds of this entry burn. Again, 3 engines relit, the center and 2
Stage 1
radial
entry burn
engines.
shutdown.
And conclusion of that entry burn.
Meanwhile, good performance on the second stage. Since second stage ignition, we've been in a 2 alpha abort mode. The next abort modes will happen in rapid succession to Bravo, to Charlie, Delta,
Terminal
and Echo.
guidance.
Each indicating different series of maneuvers in the event of an abort scenario, but as you've been hearing through the periodic checks, we're seeing good trajectory, good performance on the Dragon and Falcon 9. SECO, second stage engine cutoff, would be coming at 8 minutes 48 seconds. We're coming up on that event.
SpaceX Dragon Shannon.
Shannon,
Copy, Shannon.
now off the coast of Shannon, Ireland. Standing by for SECO.
MVAC shutdown.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And there we heard the call out indicating that landing burn.
Dragon, SpaceX, we have a nominal orbit insertion.
Great news there for
SpaceX Dragon copies nominal orbital insertion.
great
Launch
news
escape system disarmed.
for Dragon Endeavour.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Attempting to land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
Stage 1 landing is
And there you can see on your screen, and also indicated by the cheers behind me,
Signal.
successful landing of this booster. Its first trip to space, and therefore its first landing.
An eruption of applause here at SpaceX Mission Control. And of course, after second stage engine cutoff, you heard that call that the crew is in orbit. They're now in a coast phase, where the second stage remains idle for about 3 minutes before Dragon separates from the second stage. Meanwhile, you can see that first stage in the legs right on target. We're now getting views from the second stage. You can see this is one of the cameras that's pointing up into the trunk of Dragon. Of course, we're continuing to get views of the expansion nozzle at the end of the MVAC engine. But the crew is in orbit. Falcon 9 has almost done its job. It completed its job with propelling the astronauts through the 6 minutes of the second stage, and of course, the more than 2.5 minutes of the first stage. Continuing in this coast period. We're heading to about the 12-minute mark after launch. So we're approaching 11 minutes right now. But it's great to see the crew in orbit. Of course, we are waiting for that separation. You can see this view right here of the MVAC engine. The second stage really in just an idle position, really just coasting, not many commands being issued from the Falcon 9. But of course, at the very end, we'll actually issue the command for separating the Dragon from the Falcon 9. You may see a series of burns. The Draco engines on the service section of the Draco will fire and increase separation distance from the second stage.
Once again, live view there from the second stage looking up into the trunk, which of course is the unpressurized section that goes along with the Dragon capsule to the International Space Station. That's where we are able to store basically cargo that is able to be exposed to the vacuum of space. So a great view there looking up into the trunk. That will be hopefully the first views that we get of that separation event, which we're expecting here any second. There you can see on your screen confirmation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Of that separation confirmed. Dragon Endeavour is now floating free in space.
That's right, the Falcon
Dragon,
9.
CE here. Welcome to orbit. Congratulations. Your flight is exactly 4 years after the flight of the Demo 1 mission. Like Andre said, all the best things take 2 tries. Happy that we could get you off tonight. If you enjoyed your ride, please don't forget to give us 5 stars. Over to LD for some words.
Also, a friendly reminder to put your sushi orders in for CRS 27. Have a safe ride to the space station, and we look forward to seeing you when you get home. Thank you for flying SpaceX.
Expected loss of signal, Bermuda.
And SpaceX Dragon copies all. That was fantastic. Thank you.
The Crew 6 astronauts, of course, having a strong bond.
And SpaceX Dragon, we'd like to really, for the great ride to orbit today. is greatly appreciated. May have taken 2 times, but it was worth the trip. And I guess I'll pass it over to Woody for some words.
Yeah, SpaceX Dragon, just want to say as a rookie flyer, that was one heck of a ride. Thank you. I would say put it as an absolute miracle of engineering, and I just feel so lucky that I get to fly on this amazing machine. Thanks to SpaceX, thanks to NASA, Commercial Crew Program, and our international partners. A lot of innovation went into this, tireless work effort, and a lot of painstaking attention to detail and focus on testing. And I think that's what makes it all possible to fly humans in space. Thank you.
Some really nice words.
Всем ребят, за подготовку, за то, что помогали в этом деле. Мне и всем ребятам. Я хочу сказать, что сегодня человечество делает еще один шаг в подготовке к новому большому скачку. И для меня огромная честь быть частью такой большой и дружной семьи, величайшей международной команды, как Международная космическая станция, работая вместе на благо всего человечества. Today humanity takes another step for next big leap, and for me a huge honor to be part of such a big and friendly family and the greatest international team of the ISS, working together for all mankind. Thank you.
Well said, everybody. Allow me to say a few words in Arabic first. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وصلنا الفضاء. بس بغيت أشكر أمي وأبوي وأشكر عائلتي. شكرا للقيادة الرشيدة وشكرا لمركز محمد بن راشد للفضاء اللي يعطوني الثقة هذه، وكذلك أشكر كل من جهزنا ودربنا لهذه اللحظة التاريخية من مختلف وكالات الفضاء في أنحاء العالم. شكرا لكم جزيلا. شكرا SpaceX لإيصالنا للفضاء. I would like to say thank you for everybody. Thanks to my parents, my family, thanks to our leadership, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center for their trust. Thank you for everybody who trained us and got us ready for this mission. This is incredible. Launch was incredible, amazing. Thank you so much. And last but not least, thank you NASA, thank you SpaceX for flying us to space. Go Dragon, go SpaceX. And allow me to introduce our 5th crew member. His name is Suhail, and Suhail is the Arabic name for the star Canopus. And in the Middle East, we anticipate the appearance of Canopus because it marks the end of summer and the beginning of cool time. And Canopus is actually the 2nd brightest star in the night sky. And this is the 2nd flight for Suhail because he flew with astronaut Hazan Mansouri in 2019. And many people think Suhail is an alien, but to me, Earth in a spacesuit, but with high ambitions. Thank you once again, and talk to you from the ISS.
And Dragon SpaceX, we copy all those words. At this time, I can provide you an update that we had nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. For your awareness, on hard capture hook 5, we did swap to backup motors, so you'll see that the nose cone opening did swap to backup. However, all hooks did indicate that they were traveling and look good on backup.
Acquisition signal.
SpaceX Dragon copies, and we see that on the display.